But anyway, so this year I ate the first strawberry that I liked.
Okay.
The neat experience. It's like get that the heck out of your face hole immediately.
Okay.
But so when I met my wife, she was working at a strawberry farm. It's romantic. Uh, and I was working at Chick-fil-A an hour away.
Okay.
But anyway, I went to meet her, pick her up to take her on our first real kind of not date, but just go out to eat.
Okay.
And she was wrapping up closing up the section. You know, when you pull up to this thing, back then Patterson Farms was a tiny outfit, and you had this little building that said "Pick your own" on one side or "Already picked," and they'd hand you a basket. So I went with her to just wrap up a few things at the "Pick your own," and to my horror, she holds up in front of my face a strawberry, and I knew at that moment I was like, "All right, I already knew this is the girl." And if I screw this up, I'll be alone forever
All right.
and miserable. This is her. I don't know how I knew, but I just knew. There's a lot in life I don't know and fumble around with, but this I had right. And I turn around, and everything in my heart and soul was like, dude, if you don't eat that strawberry, this is probably over. You know what I mean? And so I took it and I popped it in my mouth. And somehow, some way, I got that little sucker down and smiled, and I faked my way through that. And then, like 2 weeks later, well, a little bit later, I guess about 2 months later, we finally started dating, and I was like, "Yeah, I cannot do that."
Yeah, by the way, I don't like
Right.
strawberries. I started this relationship off on a lie.
That's not a good way to put it. But I knew it was all going to be over if I didn't get that little sucker down. But anyway, so let's see, that was 1997. So 25
Five?
years later,
25th anniversary this year?
yeah, I finally, that's right.
Don't
Um,
forget that one.
I'm not.
If it hasn't already happened.
No, I had
Okay.
October 9th.
Okay.
I remember Care Bear. But yeah, so first strawberry that I could get down. We're talking about tasting foods and texture and
Yep.
how you don't eat beans.
Yes.
Yeah. Are we on?
We're on.
Oh, all right.
So let's talk about episode 61.
What's up, guys and gals, and welcome to episode 61 of the What Makes Us Human podcast. Right here's John Lindeman, and over there, who doesn't eat beans, is JR. How you?
I'm doing well. It was cooler today. It was in the 70s. It was 97 plus last week, so
Yes.
enjoying a cool day or two here and I know, some people may not like if we just start out talking about the weather, but yeah, it's worth mentioning that it felt nice outside
Oh
today.
man. Yes. Uh, we had just one of those moments today. We went and saw some family and saw the Lindemans, and we're riding down the road, all four of us. Now that the kids are over 18 and older, I guess, it's kind of hard to get us all together at once, but we all get in the CRV and are headed to see my parents, and the sun is shining, and I'm not having to wear Gold Bond for the first time in 7 days beneath my waistline. That's wonderful. And I work blue collar, so I make sweat biscuits during the summer. But we had one of those moments where the radio's just blaring, the windows are down, it's the kids are with us, and are you typing in a band name, Hannah?
Absolutely.
Summer Sweat Biscuit.
Just sweat biscuits.
Sweat Biscuit. And anyway, the Bee Gees. It's not the radio. We don't listen to the radio anymore. We listen unless Fraser Crane's on.
Some streaming app.
Yeah, and
Streaming app.
yeah, I guess I better not say it. But and
Sorry, I've been needing to do that.
and the Bee Gees come on. And my kids on Sunday nights after church, they would ride with another family that had a kid their age to meet us at McDonald's
Okay.
every Sunday night after church. This was just a ritual. And we talk about our week and the next upcoming week and blah, blah, blah. And those people absolutely loved the Bee Gees. Well, I never picked up on that really. So this Bee Gees song comes on, and both my kids just start in with it, like, and they know every word. And I was just so shocked. But then we got to a point in the song and they got quiet. And I was like, how come y'all don't know? And Aubrey's like, well, Dad, it only took like 4 minutes to get to the McDonald's. So we've never heard this entire song.
Oh,
But it was like, that wasn't it. But and that the falsetto, I just cannot do it. Because in every one of the Bee Gees songs, at some point, there's the, you know what I mean? It's just, oh my gosh.
I think whatever the noise was you
I
just
just got
made
Gold Bond on my hand.
was so out of the range it didn't even get picked up on the recording. Like there's just a blank spot
All
on the
right.
recording now.
So you got to suck it up and go all full Michael Jackson. But anyways, it's a great day. So yeah, it's glad to be here.
Yep. So what are we talking about tonight?
Today we're talking about, all right, the caveat here. We're going to be mature. Okay. We're going to be mature. There's not going to be a lot of band names. But we are talking about.
So I already have two.
Yeah, you're right. You do. Okay, so tonight or today we are talking about Bill number 471, and Bill number 471 is about coelacanth sex education. No, I'm kidding. So tonight we're talking about Olestra.
Okay. I had no idea where you were going with this.
Coelacanth sex education. No, so Olestra, I looked up Allestra, and all I got was birth control and IUDs. Yeah.
I guess the way I pronounced Olestra to you.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And I was like, wait a minute. What do chips that give you anal leakage have to do with interuteral devices?
I guess I must have more of an accent than I think I do.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's Olestra, Olestra. And these are those wow chips.
Now light chips.
Light, Lite chips. Yeah. So today we're going to be mature and we're going to talk about Olestra, not birth control.
Okay.
But the chips with a special sauce that do things to your tongue.
Special fat substitute.
Fat substitute. So before you dive in, I will say, now I can't remember his name. Doggone it. I kind of do this without a rope, and sometimes it bites me. But the guy that played Robert's brother-in-law on Everybody Loves Raymond, he was the nerd that was into comics and everything. Anyway,
I don't know that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's Robert's wife. When finally he marries Amy, it's her brother.
Okay.
Well, that actor is on the David Letterman show, and David Letterman has him take a bite of pure fat.
Okay.
With a tablespoon, and then he has him take a bite of pure Olestra with a tablespoon. I don't know where they got it from, but the crowd claps and everything, and then the guy takes a second bite of a huge spoonful of Olestra. And Dave Letterman talks about it, and he talks about it, and Dave talks about it. And then the guy says, is there anybody that can come take my arm and escort me off stage? And I'm only going to be able to take like 3-inch steps. And they come and they escort him off. And then Dave moves on to the top 10.
I need to see this video.
Yeah. So, causes problems with your interregnum area.
Yeah. You said before I dive in. I thought this was your topic.
Do what now?
You said before I dive in. I thought this was your topic.
Oh, I thought this was your topic.
Because I had it last week. This might be fun. So,
Somebody take my podcast, please.
all right. So, you're familiar with the food pyramid?
Yes.
Okay. What did the food pyramid look like when you were a kid? Was it different? Was it the same?
Well, I always thought it was interesting that they called it a food pyramid, but all I saw was a triangle, not the same as a pyramid.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's see here. I think at the base, it was kind of like Dr. Atkins' worst nightmare. At the base were grains and breads and spaghetti, pasta.
Carbohydrates.
Carbos, there you go. Carbohydrate, thank you. And then after that was maybe vegetables.
I think vegetables and fruit were side by side.
Okay. And then you got smaller is meat.
Meat and then sweets.
What's at the tip top?
Dairy, meat, maybe dairy, then meat, then sweets.
Sweets is at the
It's
very top.
top, yeah.
Okay.
And it all depends on when you're talking about this because it has changed a lot. And the reason why I asked is at some point, it may have been in your childhood, may have been just prior to your childhood, there was only like 4 food groups, so it wasn't a pyramid.
Yeah, okay. I remember hearing about the 4 food groups.
Okay.
So that'd be breads, meats,
Yeah.
dairy,
And
and
sweet things like
or vegetables.
vegetables.
Yeah.
Well, fruits and vegetables are actually combined together in that one.
So it'd be dairy or carbohydrates, meat, dairy,
Fruits and vegetables.
fruits and veg. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the idea then was because it wasn't a pyramid, it was kind of, hey, all of these things, you just need to make sure you're having enough of all of these things. It wasn't so much about eat more of this, less of this. But really, with the food pyramid,
It was about something that we had totally forgotten about in our society.
malnutrition.
Moderation.
Oh, I was gonna say malnutrition.
Oh,
Some were more focused on you getting enough.
Yeah. Okay.
Like eat some of all of these. Basically, was the mentality.
John was definitely getting enough.
So the food pyramid, the one that was around when I was a kid was probably very similar to the one that was around when you were younger. Then,
So yours would be in the late '80s, early '90s.
mine would have to be in the one I would remember would be mid to late '90s.
Oh God!
Because I was born in '90. So,
Oh,
but it is grains, carbohydrates, grains at the bottom.
yeah.
And the idea being, as you move up, these boxes are smaller and smaller, and the idea being, the smaller the box, the less things in that box you should have. So it was 6 to 11 servings of bread, cereals, rice, pasta, vegetables, and fruit. Were 2 separate boxes, but they were essentially the same quantity. You might see 3 to 5 and 2 to 4 on the fruit. 3 to 5 vegetables, 2 to 4.
Oh, 11 servings of grains in a day.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, wait, what? Okay.
Milk, yogurt, cheese. The dairy was 2 to 3. Meat was 2 to 3. Meat, poultry, eggs, etc. Dried beans, since you were talking about beans. And then the sweet stuff was the tip of the pyramid, and it was, sparingly.
Why dried beans? Why not? Why can't you open a can of beans?
It'd be the same thing. But
Okay.
that's how it's listed on like the official
Oh, okay.
food pyramid that I'm looking at.
Well, I gotta have my wet beans.
Around the time that food pyramid came out, they started really looking at the average American diet. So the average American diet, probably before you were born, you think
Pre-76.
50s, 60s, you'd have a big piece of meat.
Oh yeah.
Pork, usually pork chop or
Steak.
Rarely chicken or fish.
See, unfortunately, me and my wife are backwards at Outback. We don't go to Outback a lot anymore,
Yeah.
but if we go to Outback, she orders a steak and I order Alice Springs chicken. And they always put the steak in front of me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We have similar because I usually don't order steak and she will. So
okay.
we have the same problem.
But yeah, big piece of meat.
Big piece of meat, some kind of potato.
Oh, yeah. Baked potato.
And then,
not a sweet potato either, a baked potato.
Baked potato, fries, some kind of potato.
Sweet potato goes in a casserole.
She would disagree strongly, our producer. And then maybe broccoli.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe corn. Maybe
Yeah.
something that passed as a vegetable.
Broccoli with lemon juice is the bomb.
And bread. That was
yeah.
Kind of the standard. And so really around the time this food pyramid came out, they were like, okay, we need to maybe kind of look at this a little bit. And this is where you start to get the mentality that fat is the enemy.
Oh, yeah.
This fat that you ingest just turns, it's just fat in your body and it clogs your arteries and people are having heart attacks. This is around the 70s when this food pyramid came out. So when you were a kid. And really, I think some of that maybe goes to, by that point, by the 70s, we didn't have as much as many people dying of like diseases and things, like typical germ-based diseases that we would have had previously. So in some cases, I know we've talked about the birth rate, or not the birth rate, excuse me, the longevity
Oh yeah, yeah.
being a little skewed by the number of
Infant
infant
mortality.
mortality and
Yeah,
all that. But still, people did start living longer, or at least more people started living
yeah.
longer, and so people were having heart attacks, and they were trying to figure out why. So they're like, okay, it must be fat, and so there's just all that war on fat. You need to stop with all this fatty food.
Now, not all fat's bad, right?
That's where that's kind of the
Where we're headed,
well, that's where we're at now. You
right?
know,
There's good fat and bad fat.
the idea of good fat is something we have now, but it's not something that was even considered back then.
So one of the things my buddy Brad taught me, he kind of introduced me to the hunting world and everything. And one of the first things I remember him talking about was he was like for instance, if you're in the wild and there's nothing but rabbits around, you're gonna starve because it's so
It's
lean.
too lean.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you need the fat. And
yeah,
that if you were to kill a moose, a lot of time and have that meat out and you couldn't get it up high enough, a lot of times the wolves or the coyotes, they'll take the fat before they take the actual meat.
yeah,
I thought it was very interesting. So you've got to have fat. It's kind of like vitamin C in a way, but different, but not. Like if you don't have vitamin C, you're gonna get what is it, scurvy
rickets,
or something? Yeah, you have to have fat. It's scurvy.
scurvy.
You have to have fat. If you just live on rabbit meat, you're gonna starve to death, basically.
Sure.
Yeah,
And we understand that now, but then it was fat is bad, and
right.
that was the mentality. And so this is when you start to get low fat foods. You first start to see that stuff come on the scene. You know, the government agencies and the scientists are saying fat is bad, so companies are lowering the fat in their food.
Is this around the time of the Diet Pepsi too?
I don't know when Diet Pepsi came around,
Man, I'll never forget Cindy Crawford drinking
but
that
that's a
Diet
little bit of a
Pepsi.
different animal because Diet Pepsi is a sugar thing, and that came later.
Oh, that's true. That's a little bit. But I will say, I'll never forget. It was a Sunday afternoon, and I was a kid, and Cindy Crawford started drinking that, and oh wow, I was like, wow.
The So in fact, what companies started doing to make these low fat foods, they'd cut back the fat, but the flavor was off, so they'd replace the fat with sugar and salt.
Hmm.
So a lot of these things that were low fat had more sugar, more
Yeah,
salt. That's still
yeah.
the case to this day. A lot of things like that, but companies wanted to find some kind of fat substitute because everybody's suddenly afraid of fat.
Yeah.
Well, the folks at P&G,
Procter and Gamble.
yep, developed something. I think they may have actually developed it back in the 60s, but it took them like 3 decades to get government approval. They developed a fat substitute that a lot of fat substitutes kind of they're focused on the mouth feel, they're focused on that kind of thing. But in this case, this one could withstand heat,
That's important.
which means you could fry in it.
Yeah.
So they're trying to get this passed. They're trying to get this approved by the FDA, and they spent 3 decades trying to get this approved by the FDA.
If it takes that long to get it, maybe you shouldn't.
And part of the problem was, at least back then, and probably still to this day, the FDA's main area that they're focused on was toxicity.
Yeah.
And that really wasn't the problem here. It was you've created a new thing. Yeah, it's not toxic, but what is it? What does this do to the human body?
Right.
And the way they created
It
this,
evacuates the human.
the way they created this fat substitute was they took a triglyceride.
Uh huh.
So you've got 3 points of attachment,
Yeah.
and they modified it where it would accept 7 or 8 molecules instead of 3.
It's like a septo-octoglyceride.
And your body had no idea what to do with it. The human body didn't know what to do with a molecule that large.
Yeah.
So it just kind of passed through because your body couldn't process it.
So anytime it gets to a processing point, that processing point's like pass because
It just sees a molecule. It doesn't know what it is.
no pun intended on the word pass, to be honest with you, but yeah.
Yeah, it just send it through because I can't do anything with that.
Okay.
Well, if fat is bad, this seems like a win for Procter and Gamble if they can get it approved. It really wasn't until the early '80s when one of the cereal companies, it might have been General Mills, managed to get the FDA to sign off on. There had been some studies that certain whole wheat things may help lower cholesterol, and they got permission to put on the boxes of some of their wheat cereals, may help lower cholesterol. In which case, Procter and Gamble's like, okay, if they can do that, surely we can get this passed.
Yeah.
So they keep pushing, and finally they kind of come to a compromise where they say, essentially, if you'll approve this, then we'll only use it in snack foods, chips and cookies. Like, we won't put it in anything. We won't use it for anything else. We won't sell it in the stores for people to get their own. It'll just be in our chips and cookies.
Now, okay, so what's ironic about that is the way they're selling it is that it's only going to be in something people eat a minute amount of. But we all know that you sit down and we'll go, if you're not careful, you'll eat an entire bag of cookies.
Yeah, and that's going to play in here.
It sure is.
So they come to the agreement, and it's not until 1996
That's really late.
that Frito-Lay, with this approved, Frito-Lay comes out with Wow chips.
Score.
These are our chips. They're Doritos. They're, all the things that Frito-Lay makes, but fried in Olestra instead of cooking oil.
I was 20 years old. I remember this.
And the problem quickly became apparent that if you tell someone this has no fat, they don't feel bad about eating the whole bag.
Yeah.
It's like,
fat free.
Yeah, if it's fat free, I can eat the whole thing then, and
Ooh, it's like the custard or the sherbet, the yogurt. It's the
frozen yogurt
on Seinfeld.
I'm not familiar with that one.
And oh man, yeah, and they go down there and everybody's eating tons and tons and tons of it, but they start gaining weight instead of losing weight.
Oh yeah,
it turns out it's got just a little bit in it. Yeah.
I was gonna say that was always the thing with the frozen yogurt craze that happened just a few years ago.
TCBY.
After TCBY. TCBY I always remember when I was a kid. But you think of what was the frog one?
Sweet frog, yeah.
And there were other copycats, sort of just sprang up everywhere.
Yeah.
But if you kind of looked at it, people were taking this that was kind of advertised as a healthier alternative to ice cream, and then putting a bunch of candy and stuff in, So
yeah,
people start to notice some problems when they're eating these things. They're eating these Wow chips, and that is, as we've alluded to, if your body can't process this, it just goes straight through you. Yeah, it's making you have to run to the bathroom. It is making what happens there
violent,
worse,
graphic,
oily. Yeah, I mean,
if you need I feel like being Jeff Foxworthy here for a second. If you need a mop and kitty litter when you go to the bathroom,
you might have eaten Olestra.
You might have eaten Olestra. Or if you need your wife to come with a beach towel to the
So there's a consumer advocacy group, and I'm sorry, I forget the name of the consumer advocacy group that was really opposed to Olestra because I thought this was your topic.
You're floating this boat, I will say, Jared.
But they
very well, actually.
They started publishing
Citizens Against Diarrhea.
Real life accounts.
Band name.
Real life accounts from people who'd had bad reactions to Olestra, probably after eating an entire bag of chips or whatever. And one of them was like a lady from Ann Arbor, Michigan, lost 4 pairs of underwear and all of her friends for 2 days after eating Olestra.
Wow, good Lord, how much did she eat?
I mean,
Well,
so
see, here's the thing.
they're literally putting this stuff on billboards.
Here's the deal, dude. So, if you've never cracked open a bag of wild chips and you know how we used to do those big youth group Super Bowl parties here
yeah,
at the church?
yeah,
Um, it, if you've never had this stuff and then you make this giant plate and like you do a version of nachos, but you use these chips and you got all that other stuff that will already give you gas on top, and then you eat 3 plates of that at some Super Bowl party or Final Four party, dude, you're going to be calling into work.
yeah.
I mean, you may need medical assistance at your home.
But the thing is, when it first launched, when these Wow chips first launched, before kind of all this other stuff started coming out, the results of people eating it started coming out. They it was the biggest new product of 1996. Like I forget if it was millions or billions. It had to be billions to be the biggest in '96.
So everybody was buying it up.
Yeah, we can eat these chips and not have to worry about fat.
I wonder if there was like a toilet paper shortage then too.
Yeah, that's the weird thing that I think here is after being the biggest launch. No, this isn't the weird thing. After being the biggest launch, it dies off. Yeah, after a few years.
Yeah, people scared to touch it.
After a few years, people kind of get the word and they're like, oh, well, maybe we don't buy these. Maybe we just buy regular chips and maybe eat fewer of them.
Yeah.
But they haven't gone away.
Can you still purchase
They
these?
rebranded them as Light. So Lay's Light are made with Olestra.
Still?
Yeah.
Oh.
So it never went away. It got rebranded kind of because of the bad reputation it got. But Olestra is still, you can still buy chips made with Olestra.
Oh.
Now, in the U.S., the
Right,
EU,
yeah, you
the
cannot.
EU didn't approve this
Yeah,
stuff. The EU Pearl wasn't even a thing in '96, was it?
right.
No, that's around the time of it.
You
But
can't even have like Yellow 5 in Europe.
European countries didn't approve it.
It's
I think
Mountain Dew.
I think Canada didn't approve it. But still, in the U.S., you can still get. It's just renamed. You can still get Olestra chips.
Now, Jared, have you ever eaten anything where just a little bit later you got the ice pick in the belt line and pain and had to go?
Yeah, but I mean, I couldn't tell you what it is right off. Like
Or what it was?
it's not been oh, well, I'm never eating that again kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
But
What must that be like?
the uh, the funny thing to me with this is, after the all fat is bad, after that kind of started to die off, and you start to get things like, hey, there's good fats, and hey, sugar is the problem, carbs are the problem. You start to get things like the Atkins diet, and all these other various ones you have now.
Yeah, if I ate like they told me to in kindergarten, I would weigh 600 pounds. If I based my diet on carbs at 45 years old, holy cow, I'd be big as a house.
Yeah, I mean, you've got certain diets now tell you if you crave sugar, eat fat. And
Yeah,
the diets seem to work at least for some people.
yeah.
So there was a shift from fat is bad to now white processed sugar is bad.
Right. Yeah, white bread's bad. White rice is bad.
And so you do have the carbs are bad, but with the shift to sugar is bad, that's where you start to get diet sodas and things. It's also where you get sugar-free Haribo gummy bears.
Oh, yes.
And sugar-free Haribo gummy bears, which is a no longer manufactured
Yeah, I was
product,
gonna say, don't give those out if you find them in your cupboard.
is it was made with xylitol, an alcohol-based sugar. And what they did with xylitol was basically the same thing they did with Olestra. They took the molecules and modified it so it would take more. It would take more attachment. It had more attachment points. And with a molecule so big, your body can't process it. It's the exact same mistake. And Haribo, in the all sugar is bad, decided, hey, let's make some sugar-free gummy bears. I am not going to go on Amazon and read the reviews of Haribo sugar-free gummy bears, but
They're good.
if you have not, you should probably go do that.
Very funny.
Very funny, very graphic.
Very graphic.
But you could still. There's another company I think that makes them now, and if you go to the Amazon page, I think now it's people talk about, oh, I ordered these, but they're not Haribo; they're a different brand,
Yeah.
because Haribo doesn't make them any longer. But it was the exact same problem. And really the difference I think is xylitol seems to only affect some people that way, whereas Olestra seemed to be more of
Everybody.
this is everybody. But yeah, it's interesting how kind of the fad diets, the fad eating examples that the government throws out um, lead to some pretty awful
That was a weird.
side effects. So
And it's funny that we all know the government is stupid at this point. If you don't know that, you're stupid. I mean, look at us. And we want the government to tell us what to
what to
eat.
eat?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Do you remember the yellow milk cartons? Were you old? Y'all remember that?
Yellow. I do not remember yellow milk cartons.
They changed the milk cartons to yellow because they said sunlight was damaging the milk.
Oh, some places still do opaque cartons. They're not quite as bright yellow.
Okay,
but
yeah, they were like really yellow.
Ingalls still does that.
Oh, okay.
They're not clear milk cartons.
Okay. But like everybody really went for it there for a while. It's just there's always some new fad.
I will say, and this may have nothing to do with the carton. Ingalls milk, I can buy it 2 days before it expires, and it's still good. 3 weeks later.
Wow.
Whereas a different jug of milk from a different local grocery store
Yeah.
that I won't name, you can buy, and 2 weeks later, when it's still not it still says it doesn't expire for another week or two.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Oh, okay.
So maybe those cartons do
Maybe
have
they
an
do.
effect,
I don't
but
know.
I don't know.
But there's just been so many fads, and it makes you wonder what's the next thing going to be where they say we need to teach our kids this is the way to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I will say I could probably hang with a paleo diet. I could probably do that.
It's like no carbs, like no breads, because paleo is hunter gatherer diet basically.
Okay.
But
So is that like meat and lettuce?
it's meat and some vegetables. Yeah,
Yeah, I could. If you put
I
meat,
think
broccoli, and carrots
some
in front of
fruits
me,
are allowed. Yeah.
oh man, cooked carrots and broccoli, I'd be a happy camper. Now, so would I lose my potato?
I don't know. In some variations of paleo, depending on how far they go, I've not looked into this a whole lot. But some of them are actually go so far as you can't cook the vegetables.
Oh no, we can't do
But
that. Okay,
if you're eating like a caveman,
never
but
mind. Forget it.
that's not all of them. But I mean, I would say some kind of moderated approach is probably the best across the board.
Okay.
You know, but we did Mediterranean, which is smaller portions of meat and things, but it's like 6 to 8 um, fruits and vegetables, and and you
Whole
can
grain.
have whole grain. If you're gonna have bread or whatever, it needs to be whole grain. You can have it. Really focuses on like good fats. It really focuses on what you should eat as opposed to what you shouldn't eat.
Okay.
It really seems to take the approach of if you're eating the things it says you should eat, you're not going to have any room left to eat the stuff that maybe you shouldn't.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you're eating a couple servings of vegetables with every meal,
You're gonna be full.
yeah.
Yeah. I love veggies. I love them cooked, but I love beans, carrots. Oh yeah, broccoli. But
So yeah, that was Olestra, and we got through it with very few giggles and graphic description.
yeah, and you really carried 90% of that, Jared.
Based on very limited research
Yeah.
because I thought you said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to do Olestra," and I was like, "Oh."
See, I thought you said you wanted to do a Lester.
I had mentioned it as a topic, but this was your week, so when you said let's do Olestra, I thought you were going to take
Oh,
it.
that's
So.
why this morning you were like, "So, how are you on?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm good, I guess."
Well, it worked out.
It worked out. This too shall pass. But bum.
So you want next week to be your topic then?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. You got anything else?
Um, No, I thought that was pretty good. Hannah got a couple of good band names out of that. We're gonna have a band name. We got some stuff that we're talking about, and band names might be in on it in the future. We'll
Okay.
just have to see.
All right, folks. We will see you next week.
Rate, like, and subscribe.